The auditorium erupted in applause as my name echoed through the speakers, but all I could hear was the blood pounding in my ears, a furious drumbeat that drowned out everything else. I stood there on the stage, diploma in hand, the cheap polyester gown sticking to my sweat-slicked skin like a second layer of shame. My parents sat in the third row, their faces beaming with that practiced pride they reserved for family photos, the kind where everyone pretends everything's fine. But as I locked eyes with them, something inside me snapped. Not audibly, not dramatically, but with the quiet finality of a lock clicking shut. This was it. The moment I'd rehearsed in my mind 1,000 times. I leaned into the microphone, my voice steady despite the storm raging within. "I'd like to thank my parents," I said, pausing just long enough for the crowd to lean in, "for teaching me that nothing in life is fair, and for showing me exactly how to fight back." The applause faltered, a ripple of confusion spreading through the sea of faces. My mother's smile froze, her perfectly manicured hands clutching her purse like a lifeline. My father shifted in his seat, his tie suddenly too tight around his thickening neck. They didn't know yet. Not fully. But the seed was planted, and I could see the first tendrils of unease creeping into their eyes. As I stepped off the stage, the weight of 4 years of resentment settled heavier on my shoulders, but for the first time, it felt like armor instead of a burden. It started innocently enough, or at least that's how I tried to frame it in my mind during those early days of denial. I was 17, poring over college acceptance letters in our cramped kitchen, the smell of Mom's overcooked lasagna hanging in the air like a bad omen. Emily, my older sister by 2 years, had just graduated from her fancy private university. Tuition fully paid, no questions asked. She'd majored in art history of all things, and now she was finding herself in Europe on a parental-funded gap year. Me. I'd busted my ass through high school, straight A's, captain of the debate team, volunteer hours stacked like bricks in a wall I thought would protect me. "Dad, look, I got into State U. Full ride scholarship for the first year, but I'll need help with the rest." I slid the letter across the table, my heart buoyant with hope. He barely glanced up from his newspaper, the rustle of pages like a dismissal. "That's great, kiddo. But money's tight right now. Your sister's loans are still coming due, and we've got the house to think about." Loans. Emily didn't have loans. I'd overheard them bragging to Aunt Karen about paying cash for her dorm upgrades. Mom chimed in then, her voice syrupy sweet. "Honey, you're so smart. You'll figure it out. Maybe get a job. It builds character." Character. That word echoed in my head as I stormed up to my room, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the family portraits on the wall. The one of us at Disney World, all smiles and mouse ears. Me at 10, Emily at 12, already the golden child with her perfect curls. Heartbreak hit first, a sharp stab in my chest that made it hard to breathe. How could they? I'd never asked for much. Never the expensive clothes Emily got, never the car on her 16th birthday. But this was my future they were shrugging off like an inconvenient bill. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling cracks that mapped out my fracturing world. Resentment bubbled up, hot and acrid, tasting like bile. Why her and not me? Was it because she was the firstborn, the pretty one? Or something darker, some unspoken favoritism that had always simmered beneath our family's facade? I replayed conversations in my head, searching for clues. The way Dad laughed at Emily's jokes but critiqued mine. Mom's endless praise for her artwork, while my debate trophies gathered dust on a shelf. By morning, anger had solidified into something colder. Resolve. I wouldn't beg. I'd work 2 jobs, waitressing at the diner with its greasy floors and leering customers, tutoring rich kids who didn't give a damn. I'd scrape by on ramen and library all-nighters, my eyes burning from fluorescent lights. But every rejection letter from scholarship committees, every bounce check for textbooks, fed the beast inside me. Humiliation gnawed at my edges, especially when Emily called from Paris, gushing about croissants and the Eiffel Tower. "You should come visit, sis. It's magical." "Can't afford it," I'd mutter, hanging up before the tears came. College was a blur of exhaustion and isolation. My dorm room smelled of instant coffee and desperation, walls thin enough to hear my neighbors' laughter while I hunched over assignments. Friends. I had acquaintances, but trust came hard after the betrayal at home. I'd visit for holidays, pasting on a smile as Mom fussed over Emily's latest postcard. She's interning at a gallery now. So proud. And Alex? Dad would ask belatedly, using my name like an afterthought. How's school? Fine, I'd lie, swallowing the urge to scream. Inside, fantasies played out, storming in with my diploma, shoving it in their faces. Or worse, exposing their hypocrisy to the world. But doubt crept in during quiet moments. Were they really that bad? Maybe money was tight. Maybe I was overreacting. Guilt twisted like a knife. They were my parents, after all. Flawed but family. Yet the obsession grew. I'd scroll through Emily's Instagram late at night. Her filtered life a stark contrast to my own. Designer bags from Mom and Dad's surprise gift. A new apartment in the city, rent covered. Each post was fuel, turning resentment into a plan. Subtle at first, I started documenting everything. Bank statements I'd accidentally found in Dad's desk years ago, showing transfers to Emily's account. Emails from Mom promising more support, while I got nothing. I saved screenshots, built a digital dossier in a hidden folder on my laptop. Why are you so distant lately? Mom asked during one tense Thanksgiving dinner, the turkey dry and the air thick with unspoken accusations. Just busy, I replied, forcing a smile. But my eyes flicked to Emily, laughing with Dad about some inside joke. Suppressed rage simmered. I imagined flipping the table, plates shattering like my illusions of fairness. As graduation approached, the plan crystallized. It wasn't just about money anymore, it was about justice. Poetic, irreversible. I'd uncovered something during a late-night dig through old family records. Dad's business expenses, that looked suspiciously like embezzlement from his accounting firm. Small at first, but adding up. And Mom. She'd been complicit, signing off on false deductions to fund Emily's lifestyle. It was gray area stuff, but enough to rattle cages if exposed. Fear hit then, cold and clammy. What if it backfired? Ruined us all. Moral conflict warred within. Revenge felt right, but at what cost? I paced my tiny apartment, the carpet threadbare under my feet, rain pattering against the window like accusatory fingers. Obsession won out. I'd make them see me, really see the damage they'd wrought. The week before graduation, I invited them with feigned excitement. Can't wait for you to see me walk, I texted. Their responses were lukewarm, but they came. Emily too, flying in on their dime. Now, post-ceremony, we gathered in the lobby, the hum of excited families buzzing around us. My heart raced as I hugged them stiffly, feeling the tension in their embraces. That speech was interesting, Dad said, his voice laced with forced joviality. Beads of sweat dotted his forehead despite the air conditioning. Yeah, what did you mean by fight back? Mom added, her eyes darting nervously. Emily frowned, scrolling her phone. Sounded kinda bitter, Alex. Everything okay? I smiled, cold and calculated. Oh, it's perfect. Let's celebrate. Dinner on me. The irony tasted sweet. As we drove to the restaurant, silence hung heavy in the car, broken only by the rhythmic thump of tires on pavement. My mind raced ahead, plotting the reveal. Subtle hints first. A casual mention of financial struggles, watching their reactions. Build the suspense, let them squirm. At the table, candlelight flickering like omens, I ordered wine. Cheap but pointed. To family, I toasted, my voice dripping with irony they didn't yet catch. Dad cleared his throat. Alex, we're proud of you. Really? Are you? The words slipped out sharper than intended. Tension spiked. Mom's fork clattered against her plate. What's that supposed to mean? Emily asked, her perfect brows furrowing. I leaned back, savoring the moment. Just that some of us had to earn it the hard way. The air thickened, conversations from nearby tables fading into a distant murmur. Dad's face paled slightly, a preview of what was to come. But I held back, letting the slow burn build. Tonight was just the appetizer. The restaurant's dim lighting cast long shadows across our table, turning familiar faces into strangers. I watched my family closely, noting every twitch, every averted gaze. Dad's hand trembled as he reached for his water glass, the ice clinking like warning bells. Mom picked at her salad, her lipstick-smeared napkin a bloodied flag of surrender. Emily, ever the oblivious one, chattered about her latest opportunity. A startup funded, of course, by parental generosity. "You know, Alex," she said between bites of steak, "you should apply for that grant I told you about. It's for emerging talents like you." Emerging talents. The phrase stung, a reminder of how she'd been handed everything while I clawed my way up. Anger flared anew, but I tamped it down, channeling it into the cold resolve that had become my constant companion. "Thanks, Em. But I've learned to rely on myself." Dad coughed, a dry, nervous sound. "We did what we could, son. Times were tough after the recession." He always defaulted to that when uncomfortable, as if gendering me made the conversation easier. I wasn't his son. I was Alex, the forgotten child. Heartbreak twisted in my gut, layered with resentment. How many nights had I cried myself to sleep, wondering what I'd done wrong? But now doubt crept in again. Was this revenge worth the fallout? The moral grayness of it all gnawed at me, a whisper of guilt amid the roar of justification. "Tough," I echoed, my voice low but edged. The word hung in the air, heavy with accusation. Nearby diners glanced over, sensing the shift in atmosphere, the way a room quiets before a storm. Mom interjected, her tone placating. "Let's not ruin the evening, honey. This is your day." My day. Finally. I pulled out my phone under the table, thumb hovering over the email draft I'd prepared. The one with attachments, scanned documents, transaction histories, even a timeline I'd meticulously constructed. It was addressed to Dad's boss, the IRS tip line, and copied to family friends for maximum humiliation. One tap and their world crumbled. But suspense demanded patience. I pocketed the phone, opting for words instead. "You know what's funny? I found some old papers last time I was home. Bank stuff. Transfers to Emily's account, tens of thousands, while I was working doubles to afford books." Silence descended like a shroud. Emily's fork froze midair, her eyes widening. "What are you talking about?" Dad's face drained of color, going ashen under the warm glow of the chandeliers. "Alex, that's private. You had no right." No right. Humiliation from years past surged, my voice rising despite myself. "I had every right when you left me to fend for myself. Do you know what that felt like? Watching her get everything while I got scraps." Mom's hand flew to her mouth, tears welling. "We thought you'd understand, Emily. She needed more help. She's sensitive." Sensitive. The excuse I'd heard a million times. Obsession gripped me tighter. Fantasies of their downfall played in vivid detail. The firm firing Dad, whispers at country club gatherings, Emily's perfect life unraveling. But fear flickered. What if they fought back? Disowned me entirely? The waiter approached, sensing the tension. "Everything all right here?" "Fine," I snapped, waving him away. Turning back, I leaned in, voice a whisper that cut like glass. "You embezzled, Dad. Funneled company money into personal accounts to play favorites. I have proof." It was a bluff, partly. The documents were real, but the embezzlement label was my interpretation, a stretch that could stick if investigated. His eyes bulged, sweat now visible on his brow. "That's not. You don't understand the context." "Context?" Emily spat, finally defensive. "Alex, you're being paranoid. Mom and Dad helped me because I asked. You never did. Because I shouldn't have to." Rage boiled over, but I reined it in, pacing the revelation. The restaurant's murmur faded, It felt like we were in a bubble, the air thick with impending doom. Mom sobbed quietly now, dabbing her eyes. Please, Alex. We love you. We just made choices. Choices. That word ignited the final spark. Inner conflict raged. Guilt at their pain, but resolve won. This was poetic justice, a mirror to my own suffering. I stood, chair scraping harshly against the floor. Heads turned. Love. This isn't love. This is betrayal. Pulling out my phone again, I showed them the screen, the email ready to send. One click, and everyone knows. Dad's face went deathly pale, veins standing out on his forehead. Don't. Please. We'll make it right. Loans, whatever you need. Too late. But I hesitated, savoring the power. Suspense peaked. The air crackled with it. Emily lunged for the phone, but I yanked it back. Sit down. What do you want? She hissed, revealing her own layers, spoiled but scared. Acknowledgement, I said simply. And consequences. In that moment, doubt flooded back. Was I becoming the monster they'd made me? Moral ambiguity hit hard. Revenge felt cathartic but hollow. Then the twist, as I hovered over send. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Don't do it, Alex. It's not what you think. Confusion stalled me. Ooh, how? Dad's eyes flicked to his own phone. Guilt etched deeper. There's something we need to tell you. The confession tumbled out in hushed, broken sentences. I wasn't their biological child, adopted after a miscarriage, but Emily was the miracle baby that followed. They'd overcompensated for her, fearing I'd feel like an outsider. But in doing so, they'd alienated me more. The embezzlement was actually inheritance money from Grandma, earmarked for Emily but stretched illegally. Shock numbed me. Heartbreak anew, but twisted with understanding. My revenge faltered. The email deleted with a trembling thumb. Yet the damage was done. Their faces, pale and shattered, mirrored my years of pain. We left in silence, the night air cool against my flushed skin. Months later, therapy sessions unpacked the layers. Guilt on all sides, forgiveness tentative. Emily cut ties temporarily, seeking her own path. Parents offered reparations, but I declined, building my life on my terms. The twist lingered, that text. From Aunt Karen, who'd known all along. Her intervention saved us from total ruin, but the scars remained. A reminder that revenge, while tempting, often cuts both ways. In the end, justice wasn't in destruction, but in truth. And that, strangely, brought a cold peace.